everyone, talking about the best pumpkin fragrances that I've ever tried, not in any particular order. Gonna jump in. The first by Wild Ivy, called The Candlemaker, notes of warm vanilla, melted amber, carved pumpkins, hay bales, smoldering embers, whole cloves, crushed allspice berries, and smoked tonka. Nice kind of smoky take on a gourmand. The warm vanilla, melted amber, smoked tonka, and smoldering embers really come through. With the clove here being really well blended, it's not like super spicy clove or old school vintage style clove. I don't think you need to like clove in general to still be down with this one. The hay bales add this nice kind of wheat, almost bready type of vibe, which I always am down with that. The pumpkins are not too like kitschy, Halloween scent smelling or anything, and the allspice adds kind of like a nice tasty touch to it as well. I think fans of By the Fireplace would like this one. I'm not saying it smells just like that, and it's not like it's marshmallowy, but I could just see people like myself who really like that one enjoying this one as well. To me, this is a really good combination of like smelling delicious, but still very, very wearable. And I like that it has like, a nice kind of, delicious tilt, but there's enough kind of smoke and spice aspects as well to balance it out. I even get this kind of like salty popcorn vibe to it at times as well, and I really like that part. Very unisex, I would say. That one is discontinued, but as with all these, I'll link in the description where you can check any of them out. And even for that one, you can still get a custom bottle made by the perfumer. So technically, even though it's discontinued, there's still a way to get it. Next up, Drunken Pumpkin by Lovesick Witchery. Notes are cardamom, pumpkin, dark vanilla, amber, spiced rum, bourbon, and moonshine. Smells so good, just completely delicious. I was originally going into this because I think I had tried this one when I was like first starting to try Lovesick Witchery scents last year, and I was kind of like, I don't know, like rum, bourbon, moonshine, blah, I don't like boozy notes. But this is not one of those like super boozy scents at all. I love it, and I really don't like super boozy stuff. To me, it almost smells like a delicious like pumpkin coffee drink. I mean, there's not coffee in this, but just like that kind of vibe, like a PSL, pumpkin spice latte with like pumpkin spice cake type of mix or something. Just so good. The boozy notes here just kind of add this like fullness to it that kind of rounds it out, but it again doesn't smell overly alcohol-y at all. The cardamom's not too sharp here. Everything's just so well blended. I just want to smell this like all day. Just, definitely going to keep this around during fall. Next up, one that's pretty different from the other ones on this list. And that is Tilda Swinton Like This by Etat Libre. It was inspired and kind of collaborated with by the actor Tilda Swinton. Notes are yellow mandarin, ginger, pumpkin, immortelle, neroli, rose, vetiver, heliotrope, and musk. Some people do not get a lot of pumpkin out of this. It really depends on your skin chemistry if you're wearing this one on skin. For me, whether I spray it on shirt or on skin, I do get pumpkin, and the pumpkin here is like a very fresh pumpkin. It's not like gourmandy, it's not Halloween style pumpkin. Well, I guess it kind of is, because like real, carving pumpkins on Halloween, like that real kind of like fresh pumpkin, and I love that. It's really, really rare to find that either within the realm of like Halloween scents or just in regular usage. It's so hard to find fragrances that have that kind of like fresh, authentic pumpkin stuff. But yeah, I really like the way it is here. It has kind of some powdery and soapy elements, but with a subtlety to those, so it's, to me at least, not like over the top in that sense. And there's also kind of some underlying slight warmth to it. Just a really nice take on an autumn scent that does a more unique style than the typical sort of like fall candle type of vibes. The ginger here is kind of like smooth baking spice. I like the way the citrus is like uplifting, not too bitter, and just, I really like this. Again, not everybody gets a lot of pumpkin out of it, but there is pumpkin as a note in it, and I definitely get pumpkin out of it, and I like the change of pace with the way it is done there. Next up, Pumpkin Cocoa by Alchemic Muse. The notes in this are carved pumpkins, Belgian chocolate, cocoa, and warm spice. Really delicious. I think one of those scents where if you like that notes list, you're probably going to like it. I was pleasantly surprised it doesn't smell too like watered down or anything. Like a thick, rich chocolatey pumpkin with some light warm spice. Kind of smells like the idea of hanging out in, coffee shops, Starbucks during fall and winter, but like in a good way. Not like there's coffee, but just like that kind of, the bakery and sort of rich chocolate vibe. Next up, another Lovesick Witchery one, and no, it's not the last one by them on this list. Number 13, it's called Smoked Pumpkin Flesh, Suede, Burnt Sugar, Crackling Amber, Myrrh, Labdanum, and Cypress. Such a nice, more sophisticated take on a pumpkin scent, but it's still totally like Halloween vibe, so it's like you still get the fun out of it. Leathery amber, warm resins and spice, smoky woods, suede, and of course pumpkin. Great option if you're looking for something like a less babyish take on a pumpkin scent, and I think it could even come across as like sexy potentially. So it's like interesting, but there's still a kind of familiarity to it at the same time, and just, yeah, really, really nicely done. Next up, Bonfire Pumpkins by Cocoapink. This has notes of maple oats, clover honey, sugar, pumpkin puree, toasted vanilla marshmallows, and smoke, or like a roaring fire. Really good, very addictive smell, completely fits the concept, I think. I think it's a really good combination of pumpkin fall vibes and like roasted marshmallows, but without being too cloyingly like sugary. Like the notes might make it look like it would be, but to me it's not too much like in that direction of like so synthetic-y, sugary sweet. And I like that there's this like warm, billowing, cozy smoke. Love smelling it. I think if you like the idea of like a very wearable, cozy vanilla pumpkin gourmand, you would be a fan of it. Next up, Hellebore, I might be mispronouncing that, by Hexennacht. Notes are pumpkin cakes, mace, smoked vanilla, and burnt sugar. So delicious. I want something that tastes like this immediately. Smoky pumpkin cake, has this kind of like fresh from the oven type of vibe of like warmth to it, but even better than that sounds, to me at least. And I just, yeah, this is one of those scents I would just love to always keep a decant around and just smell it, especially I guess during fall, because I want to keep those fun vibes like reserved to that to make it special. But yeah, just really, really good, and just so, yeah, smells so good. Next up, another one by Alchemic Muse, Pumpkin Blueberry. Notes in this are fresh farm-picked blueberries and ripe pumpkins with a touch of autumn spice. Really sweet and gourmandy, but still, in my opinion, totally feels wearable, because there's like a rich warmth to it that stops it from being too over the top sugary or like too youthful over the top. Like I would say it still leans youthful, but it's not like 13-year-old or like you have to be a certain age to pull it off or anything like that. And to me, this is one of the best blueberry notes that I've ever smelled. Doesn't smell nearly as synthetic as most blueberry stuff that I try, and it also doesn't get lost in the shuffle. And in my experience, that's typically what happens with blueberry and fragrance. Either it smells so synthetic, and I still like synthetic blueberry smell, you know, like maybe it reminds me of being a kid with those scented pens or whatever, but it's not what I want to wear, like something that smells that, you know, synthetic blueberry. Or otherwise you see it as a note and it's like, oh cool, and then you don't smell it at all. This one, it smells like eating a fresh blueberry bagel in a pumpkin patch is basically what I get out of it, and I like it. And speaking of pumpkin patches, next or last, not last as in worst, but just as of the list for now, titled Pumpkin Patch by Lovesick Witchery. And this is hay, dirt, grass, and pumpkin. So this is for someone who wants a realistic, unique, more avant-garde type of smelling pumpkin type of scent, not a gourmand one that just smells like, you know, sugar and pumpkin. And I'm not making fun of that, because a bunch of ones that are my favorites on this list clearly are in that kind of like, ooh, that smells delicious direction. This, though, is the like realistic, you get the hay, dirt, grass, and pumpkin notes really coming through in a very like evocative, realistic way. Very much does not smell like sugary or cliche or anything like that. Super well balanced, I think, between fitting the concept very vividly, but still not smelling too dirty or earthy to the point where you couldn't still like wear it in public. So I think it's a good combination of being like fun to smell, very interesting, but not too gross to still wear. So yeah, really nice. Highly recommend any of these. They're also all on the more affordable end. In my experience with stuff like more interesting gourmand stuff and notes like pumpkin and stuff, smaller indie brands are totally the way to go to find the best stuff for those. And all of these except for Etat, Libre, Orange are smaller indie brands. And even Etat, Libre, Orange, it's not like they're like the biggest brand in the world, but they are, you know, much more famous than the other ones. And most of the indie ones here are all on the cheaper end. Etat, Libre, Orange, as far as niche goes, they're definitely on the cheaper end. I think usually not more than $150 or so for a 100 milliliter bottle. But yeah, I'll link in the description where you can get any of these. And if you have any favorite pumpkin scents, let me know. Last year I really went too overboard trying so many pumpkin scents, to the point where I remember I tried, like, so many indie brands have a lot of them, even some of my favorites like Lovesick Witchery, and I tried so many to the point where I was almost just like so sick of smelling pumpkin stuff that I was like, oh, maybe I don't maybe I'm not as into Lovesick Witchery as I thought. And then I waited some time and I smelled them again. I was like, oh no, I was just so overboard from smelling so many pumpkin ones from so many brands that it was pumpkin that I was sick of, not theirs. So yeah, and that can happen with any note. So I would advise maybe don't get carried away like me. If you see like a million brands, coming out with little pumpkin samplers and whatever, like maybe try to stick to ones that you already know you like the brand, because there's a lot of trashy, well, not trash, there's something for everyone, but some are not as good as others, let's put it that way. But yeah, I hope that people like these if you end up trying them. And again, I'll link in the description where you can check them out.